Hey guys, I'm Madison Kaufman here with broadcaster, producer, author, and Seahawks reporter Jen Mueller as part of GALvanize's Who Not Do series. Jen, thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely, Madison. It's a pleasure.
Jen, you do so many things, and I've come to learn how well you do them. You own a company called Talk Sporty to Me, and as I mentioned before, you're an author, a speaker, a sports reporter. But if I really want to know who you are, no job titles allowed, where would I start?
Gosh. I think you'd probably still start with my love of sports. My parents were driving me to games as kids. My dad taught us how to play. And while my dad was also teaching us how to shoot baskets or was, taking us out for family games of softball, there was a lot more lessons that were learned in there about discipline and hard work and routine and doing the dirty work and the stuff that wasn't ever publicized. I still use kind of that mindset to drive me forward.
I know you also like to say that you're an expert talker. And so I'm just wondering, have you ever been in a situation that just totally put you at a loss for words?
Oh, sure. It does not happen often. These days, the thing that leaves me speechless is having to interview like a rock star. I can interview any athlete and there's just, I don't know, I feel like that's my space. But you put Mike McCready from Pearl Jam or Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses, both of whom live in Seattle. So they will regularly come to ballparks or games. And those are the moments that I find myself completely speechless. But I do say that I came by talking naturally because I literally got talks too much on every single report card. And that for a really long time was the thing that I had to fix. I didn't know when to talk and when to be quiet. And I kept thinking that there was something wrong with me as a result. And now looking back, I realized the thing that I was trying to fix for so long is actually the thing that makes me good at my job now. And I'll say that it took me a little longer than you might think to find my actual voice in broadcasting, but it's there.
How did you sort of find that, or can you even explain?
It was a lot of reps. It doesn't happen overnight. I would tell you that in everything I have ever done, 10 years is a good magic number. Doesn't mean that you're not going to be good before you hit the 10-year mark, but it means that at the 10-year mark, to me, all of the pieces start to align at 10 years. So while that might sound discouraging to some people, it really is meant to say all those moments that you think don't matter now are the exact thing that will all come together when you least expect it.
Which I think is really encouraging to hear from someone like you, especially, now you spent the majority of your career in Seattle. And they wrote an article about you recently, The Athletic Sheet did, about how you've become one of the most established sports journalism figures in the city-state. And you responded that you had never thought of it that way, which was probably because one of your first bosses hired you and told you that you were just there to wear short skirts and open doors and to not think or have an opinion, which I can't even imagine those words being said to me. How did you keep going after that?
Well, I think a lot of it is I'm stubborn. And in some ways, I was naive enough to believe that my next opportunity was right around the corner. Right. And that's truly what you kind of have to have. You're going to hear no a lot. Now, I hope that no female ever hears no in the way that I've heard it. But if you just keep going, you have to believe that the next opportunity is there and keep working towards it. And I'm stubborn. This is a lot of, I think, what drove me to start my own business, in addition to the fact that I wanted to control my career path. I've had so many people tell me no in so many different ways. And I don't think I'm unique in that. I just think I recognize how many different ways people tried to talk me out of what I really wanted to do. And the skill set that I've always had, and Madison, this comes back to what we've already talked about, is my ability to communicate and talk. And sometimes it was by saying the right thing in the right moment. Sometimes it was being consistent in the messaging. Sometimes it was how I talked to myself. But that is really what I want people to take away. Whether you have a 20-year career in sports or whether it's 2 years and you decide it's not for you, is to make sure that you can control what you control.
Sure.
To get that next opportunity.
You're really stubborn, which I love that about you. I definitely think it takes some of that. but it wasn't one of the only times that someone said something like that to you. Was there ever a moment that, despite how stubborn you are, made you really think about quitting?
Yeah, there's been a few. There have been a few times where I left the office crying, thinking this is not worth it anymore. You know, this isn't worth it. I didn't get taken seriously for a job interview. The person who did get the job was not prepared for that job. And not only that, I was the producer for that person. And I had to make that person look good every single time they went on camera. And it was like a knife going through like every single day. In addition, I asked, what could I do to improve my chances of getting that job when it came open again? And the news director of the organization said, we think you do a good job as a producer, but you're not pretty enough to be on TV.
Oh.
So I've had that one. I almost quit my business when I sat next to a gentleman on a bus. I was trying to position myself to be a conference speaker at his conference the following year. And I had flown myself to his conference. I had paid full price to attend. So we were having a conversation. I was sitting next to him. This is a 2.5-hour bus ride. And he looked at me and he said, look, I think you're nice, but I think you're a pretty face and I think you're full of shit. And I think that you could probably talk your way into any room, but once you get onto the stage, you have zero content to back you up. I had to sit next to this man for the remainder of a 2.5-hour bus ride.
Love that.
I did. I almost quit my business the next day. And instead, I decided to write my second book. And when it was completed, I sent him a copy of the book. And I essentially said, I essentially said in the note, how do you like this shit? And he responded, I was wrong. Congratulations. I have stayed in touch. And now there is a mutual respect, I would say, after having some back and forth. But yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of times. I was a football official for 10 years. I went home and I cried several nights, wondering, in what universe do I think it is fun to be yelled at on a Friday night by people who haven't spent nearly as much time studying a rule book as I have? And yet, I am stubborn enough that once I start something, it's really hard to get me to quit.
I'm sure at some point in your career, it's gotten a little bit easier to kind of just brush that off, like the fact that you sent a book to that guy you sat on a bus next to. At what point of your personal life or your career life were you able to sort of make that shift to where those moments didn't create so much insecurity internally?
I think I would be lying if I said that there is a magic moment that solved it all. I still have moments where I wonder if I'm actually doing a good job and if I'm supposed to be doing this. And I'll tell you, being locked down for 4 months and not going to work, your job is not supposed to be your identity. Mm-hmm. I've known that. I understand that. I have done Bible studies on that one. And I tell you what, not going to work, that one shakes your confidence a lot. And you try to figure out where your place is. And if you don't have TV, well, what good am I? And now what am I going to do with all these things? So I don't know that there's a moment where, at least it's happened for me, where I have reached total enlightenment and I am absolutely confident that I've got this down. What I do know is I'm a good problem solver. The moments I'm most likely to lose my confidence are ones that I feel like I haven't prepared as well for. But there is a point where I recognize there's not a whole lot that you can throw at me that I haven't already experienced. That gives me a lot of confidence as just a problem solver and a doer, that I can handle whatever it is that you're going to throw at me.
Well, all I can say is, wow, Jen, I have so enjoyed getting to learn about your who and not just your do. And thank you so much for your time, just for being a part of this.
Thanks so much, Madison.